What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we're going to be performing a deep dive on the Pokemon Lugia, because Lugia is being added back into the raids for September 1st, and of course people are excited for the fact that the shiny variant is available. But then secondly, and I think most importantly, we're getting access to the exclusive move Aeroblast for Lugia, and yes, it has been made available in the past, but if you're like myself and missed it, then this is going to be a great opportunity to get Aeroblast, and Aeroblast instantly makes Lugia a better Pokemon from the raid side, from the PvP side, so I'm very excited about doing the deep dive on this. We're also going to be doing a counter guide at the beginning of the video as well, so a counter guide as well as the deep dive. But anyways, if you do enjoy this episode, make sure to turn that like button shiny, and of course subscribe if you want to stay up to date on future deep dives. But anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So let's go ahead and dive into the counter guide itself. Now, this is pretty interesting going up against the Lugia. When you go ahead and check out the simulations, there are a ton, and I mean a ton, of shadow Pokemon. So I kind of want to talk about them, but I think what I'm going to actually end up doing is just filtering them out as like the main conversation, because some of these are very exotic picks, including the legendary Pokemon that are shadow. So let's go ahead and cover that briefly. If we take a look from the top and kind of work down, I think that Shadow Mamoswine out of the first 6 probably makes the most sense to try to get an investment in if you are looking for a shadow Pokemon to invest in. Shadow Mamoswine is great because there's so many legendaries that are dragon typing, for example. So Shadow Mamoswine could be a solid investment. Trying to get out there, do those grunts, getting that. I'm totally down for that. Some of these other electric types, not so much, a little bit more niche. And then of course, when you discuss some of these legendary Pokemon that are shadow, they're just difficult to obtain. I mean, they're very limited in the pool of chances that you've had to get them. And then the second kind of issue that I'm seeing with it is the IVs could be all over the place, so you may not be willing to kind of pull the trigger on these, especially for the fact that if they come out in the future again and you get better IVs, you don't want to end up using all of your resources. But anyways, so I think we can go ahead and move on. You kind of get the point with these shadows here. We're going to go ahead and get them out of the way, and then of course just discuss some of the regular top counters. I was actually kind of shocked at this, but Mega Manectric, wow, looking great. Mega Houndoom, looking great as well. And then finally, when we get outside of the Megas, the top counter that we have is actually Zekrom, which is pretty great here to see this Pokemon kind of leading the pack there with Charge Beam and Wild Charge. And then we've got Thundurus of the Therian form, also electric typing. So we're seeing quite a few electric type Pokemon. And then finally, when we get outside of legendary Pokemon, Mega Pokemon, Shadow Pokemon, to try to figure out like what would be like the best budget option, or at least the best non-legendary option, we finally see a Pokemon like Rampardos. And with Rampardos having an event where its shiny was featured and it was out in the wild, I think a lot of people are going to have more Rampardos now than they've ever had due to that event, so that could be a solid option. And then of course we go ahead and scroll down a little bit. We are just seeing so many exotic picks, so many mythicals, so many legendaries, so many megas, and then finally we've got something like a Galarian Darmanitan. So hopefully the event has been great for you due to the spawns, and you've got yourself a Galarian Darmanitan to kind of go in there and crush some Pokemon. And then as you can see, we're starting to loosen up a little bit, getting into some non-legendary options that I think are going to be a little bit more accessible. So of course, go ahead and take a look at some of these Pokemon, just kind of keep them in your mind so that you know what Pokemon you actually want to go for. So I hope that that was helpful to kind of cover it from a counter guide perspective. And I think what we can go ahead and do now is go ahead and jump into the actual deep dive section of this. And the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at Lugia's stats. So we could go ahead and start with the overall stats. I think that's what we're going to do. We have an overall ranking of 43rd for Lugia compared to all Pokemon in Pokemon Go. And when we take a look at the stats, it's the defense and stamina that are dominant. So this Pokemon, ladies and gentlemen, is an absolute tank. Now, unfortunately, it does come with a downside and a little bit of a caveat, which in my opinion has kind of been what's held it back a little bit from the raid side. But we'll of course discuss the history of Lugia when we head over to the moveset. But we've got a fairly low attack stat here. So an attack stat of 193, that's ranked nearly at 300th in Pokemon Go. So unfortunately, not the most impressive. But on the flip side of it, this Pokemon can last for a very long time. So it just screams anchor Pokemon, which means you put it in as the 6th Pokemon to try to avoid having your entire team faint and then have to go through the revive process or switching teams. So Lugia could end up being a great anchor, especially with how many people are able to join raids due to remote raiding. So on the flip side of this, we can go ahead and take a look at the relative ranking. And Lugia versus Psychic type Pokemon, out of 95 Psychic type Pokemon, it has the 8th best overall stats, which is great. But unfortunately, that attack stat is for sure on the lower end of that, right around the middle. And for a legendary, that is considered low. And then if we go ahead and check out the flying types versus 101 flying type Pokemon, it ends up being ranked at 5th overall. So technically speaking, Lugia's stats end up working better for it overall as a flying type attacker. And as we can see here, it actually has the highest defense, the 4th highest stamina, and then the 40th attack. But out of 100 something, that's like the 40th percentile or the 60th percentile for Lugia. So looking pretty good there versus those flying type Pokemon. But unfortunately, Lugia, in my opinion, can't really compete from that flying type. And it all has to do, once again, with the moveset. And if we go ahead and take a look at it, you'll see why. On the fast moves, we don't have a flying type quick move, which is so unfortunate for this Pokemon. On the charge move side of it, we actually have some great moves from it. So we have Sky Attack. Sky Attack's great. It's a great move from the flying type. Aeroblast does happen to be better though, which is always exciting to kind of see this move get, or this Pokemon get an upgrade, especially for the fact that it is exclusive for Lugia. And of course, we're going to be rating for it and getting Aeroblast. So a lot of good news there. Future Sight used to be good news, but unfortunately, it's no longer the best Psychic type move. So basically what happened was Future Sight used to be better than the move Psychic. But what ended up happening was Psychic got upgraded. Nothing changed for Future Sight, but Psychic got upgraded. And then Psychic became the better move set to have from the Psychic typing. Of course, outside of a move like Psystrike that Mewtwo has. But basically, Lugia fell in relevance a little bit from the Psychic typing, which is unfortunate because it actually does have a Psychic type quick move. So that, of course, was something in the past that a lot of people would have used. But with Psychic getting upgraded and a lot of Pokemon having the move Psychic, and unfortunately Lugia not having Psychic, it kind of got downgraded just because it didn't have access to that move. So a little bit of a bummer. But anyways, if we go ahead and head into it, let's go ahead and check out some raids. We're going to take a look at Lugia from the flying type as well as the Psychic typing. So let's go ahead and take a look. If we go up against Zamazenta, which is a pure fighting type Pokemon, I was hoping to see the Pokemon Lugia on this list, but it actually did not make it. And in this particular case, you're competing against flying type Pokemon or flying type moves. You're competing against Psychic type moves. They're both being put into the mix. Lugia could potentially hit it from both angles, but unfortunately, Lugia did not rank at all as the flying / Psychic type attacker. So what I wanted to do was to get a little bit more detailed to see if it was possible and focus on maybe like the flying type, for example, where we can use like the move Aeroblast, for example. And unfortunately, we can't really pair up the quick move, but in this particular case, versus Heracross, we've got the move Extra Sensory, and that is going to at least do some super effective damage versus a Pokemon like Heracross. But what's going to end up happening is you have to go all the way down to the 26th position to finally find a Pokemon like Lugia, even with the move Aeroblast. But if it had the move Sky Attack, it would be even further down. So unfortunately, the news is not necessarily the greatest for Lugia from the raid side, and it's just a little bit unfortunate, but it has, first off, a low attack stat, and that's not something that Niantic did, right? A low attack stat coupled with a moveset that is not double stab on the quick and the charge move, and not even having the best moveset, unfortunately. But I think a lot of people are still excited about Lugia. A lot of people love Lugia in the first place, getting the shinies great. And on the flip side of this, for PvP, Lugia is actually a solid option, and I don't want to understate it. Lugia can be a great Pokemon to invest in if you are interested in PvP. So of course we can go ahead and take a look at it. So Lugia actually gets the best ranking for Master League Classic, where it ends up ranking out at 3rd. And as far as the moveset is concerned, you're going to want to use Dragon Tail, Sky Attack, and Aeroblast. So you're going to go with a double flying type moveset. you need to have Aeroblast. And I'm actually stuck in a weird spot, by the way, for this, because I had a Lugia that when I was traveling to California and Oregon for doing some job stuff like 3 years ago, I can't even remember when, 3 years ago or so, I did manage to catch myself a Lugia, but I never like powered it up or did anything with it because I never felt like it was worth the investment necessarily until I ended up looking into it and saw how dominant it was from the Masters League. But what's kind of going on right now is I eventually did power it up to level 40, but I still have to get enough candy to unlock the secondary charge move, and then of course I would have to Elite TM over to Aeroblast, but I had no idea that Lugia was going to be coming back, right? So I already made the investment. So for me, it's going to be a little bit different of a story. I think my ultimate goal is to try to get out there, do some raids, try to pay for that secondary charge move, unlock it, and then probably just Elite TM it, because ultimately getting one just with the move Aeroblast to save an Elite Charge TM, I don't think that that's the best use of resources for me, but I am excited about that. So once again, Lugia is such a great Pokemon from the Master League, and if we go ahead and take a look at its performance, it ends up working very good as a closer, and it ends up working very good as an attacker in PvP. Not so great on the lead. I've seen most people actually run it as a switch, so they end up switching into Lugia and trying to bait out a counter and then switching into Lugia. But Lugia is just such a great Pokemon for PvP. Its stats kind of play out very well for that. Like we talked about earlier, it does have an low attack stat, but my god, the focus is on the bulk. It's got great defense, it has great stamina. We've seen so many Pokemon recently that might have great stamina but bad defense, or great defense but bad stamina, but Lugia actually has both. Yes, a low attack stat, but it's still able to compensate for it in PvP. So at least for that reason, I do think Lugia is worth powering it up, investing into a secondary charge move, but it's mostly focused on the PvP side. There is some value on the raid side in the form of it being an anchor Pokemon, but I think beyond that, if you're interested in just doing raids, Lugia is probably not going to be the Pokemon that you want to kind of pull the trigger on and invest in. But that's of course my opinion, and I would love to hear what your opinion is about Lugia in the comment section below. Make sure to let me know if you're excited about it, what you plan to use Lugia for. I would love to hear it. But I also want to give a huge shout out to the supporters over at Patreon. Thank you so much for all of the support. They've joined the exclusive Discord server on Discord. We talk about Pokemon Go and of course so much more. So if you're interested in supporting the channel and connecting with other Pokemon Go players, make sure to check out the Patreon link in the description below, and I will see you next time.